now. PIO and CIO roles. Like I said, we've always had these roles, but the PIO, the horizontal, is becoming more powerful. Many of these horizontals aren't IT people, and what do I mean by that? They don't have computer science degrees. They probably didn't write and develop code, or if they do have a computer engineering degree, they really grew up in the plants, or they grew up in engineering centers. They know the business. In many cases, they've been they were the vice president of engineering at another company, and now they run IT for engineering at General Motors, or they did run manufacturing plants, or they did run write manufacturing strategies for other large corporations, and now they run manufacturing IT at General Motors on the process side. So on the left side, you see a lot of people who are ex-vice presidents of their functions coming in to do those jobs for IT. It's sort of the big rules, and you could imagine Ralph put a group of people together that were, ex-CIOs at Whirlpool and those kind of, vice presidents at other truck manufacturers, etc. It's a group of strong-willed people, and he put them together in this matrix, and there were no rules. And you can see what happens after about 37 seconds of everybody saying, I get the money, I get the people, and I'm going to go do my thing. We started what we call big rules, and it's rules of engagements. Rules to how to behave, mostly, I would say. But CIO is responsible for total ISNS integrated accountability of the business. I think the CIO has a very unique role in any corporation, right? You get to see the whole company. We got a new CFO in our ISNS organization the other day. He came to one of our strategic planning offsites, and he listened to me talk about product development. This is a PIO kind of strategy day stuff. He listened to the manufacturing strategy, the product development strategy. He said, wow, I never realized I can come here and hear about the whole company and what vehicles we're doing, what plants we're doing, where we're trying to go with sales, service, and marketing, et cetera. It's absolutely true. CIO owns tying the company together. We're viewed at GM as the process people. We're viewed as a group that sees the whole company and can optimize that. CIO ensures operations meets the business needs, SOX, regulations, etc. But the PIOs own development, deployment, and sustaining all applications. PIOs and SIOs, operations guy that keeps the mainframes going, etc. Own all the global service contracts. We'll talk about global service contracts in a minute. We're going to a third generation of outsourcing right now. That we're strengthening the horizontal organization at GM, like I said. That's not just in ISNS, that's in all the functions at GM. We've been on a long journey to globalize. We've got a global bill of IT for every function, for every task. We basically scorecard every center in the world and say, where are you on this globalization journey? But there's a big deal. One of the things we're learning as we globalize here, it's a big deal to say, we're all using the same CAD system, and we're all doing the same exact quality checks. We're all doing the same exact way we do digital mock-ups. So, common tools is one big step in that direction, obviously. But then the next layer deeper, when we start moving product programs between our engineering centers, or we want to move cars between our plants, globalization has a whole new meaning at that point. Just to give you a feel for, I'm going to tell you in a minute here that one of the things the CIO has to do is be ahead of the business. If you wait for the business to tell you, hey, we want to be able to ship engineering data between our engineering centers, you're probably going to get fired. Because it's going to take you at least 2 years to do it, and they're not going to wait. So you pretty much, you have to anticipate what the business wants. You have to get out in front of it. You have to be 2 years ahead of the business. I'll talk about some of the innovation things we're going to drive right now in product development next, just to give you a feel for what I mean by that kind of stuff. But we were 700 users in 2 countries in 1998. When we stood up and said, hey, let's put in a global backbone to our team center for our CAD systems and around the globe so we can share data. And now we're 28,000 team center users in 29 different sites in 15 countries. And this is just a chart showing data going around. We share over 10,000 files around our engineering centers every day. The standard engineering desktop is the same everywhere in the world. 28,000 seats. Some of our tier 1 suppliers even buy the desktop because we guarantee our 100+ applications in engineering that goes on an engineer's desktop will go on that desktop. We'll support it. We'll make it happen. We make that happen. Outsourcing journey at General Motors. I think we were tied to EDS 84 to 96. 96 we spun EDS off. We call that the second generation of outsourcing. During that spin-off, we were able to outsource some of the business away from EDS, what we call the second generation, and then we just started the third generation exercise actually, and we went to all new global contracts around the globe. A smaller number of key suppliers providing that data. We'll talk about the thin layer model and how we hold these suppliers together in this outsource model, and standardized work based on best industry practices. We got a lot of the suppliers together at the beginning of this journey, and I think I got about 5 minutes. Is that right, Peter? Yeah. Standardized work, and got the suppliers to help us actually drive and document that best practices. Just a picture of those global contracts. We've got 41 contracts. That's how we really divided up GM. So all of General Motors is divided up into 41 different contracts across the whole globe. That's how we awarded the work to the supply base. This thin layer model, so you've got a bunch of different applications, sustain and development models, and infrastructure models, and how you hold those together. We actually put in place what we call a application integration management enterprise RFP, or global contract, and an infrastructure management global contract. And those are the thin layers that tie infrastructure and applications across the enterprise together for General Motors. Role of information technology. I talked about anticipate the business requirements, shadow the business organization. All the key leaders in the business have an IT shadow. Be linked into the business. My CIO sits on the ASB, the Automotive Strategy Board. The CIO at General Motors sits on the highest automotive strategy board in the company. I sit on the Asia Pacific Strategy Board. I sit on the product development leadership team. These linkages, provide visibility to where the company is going. We know what companies we're trying to buy, what things we're trying to divest, what product programs we're trying to push. If you don't know those things and you don't have visibility of those things, it's really hard to get out in front of the business. ISS strategy is enabler of the business strategy. I don't really think there's an IS&S strategy or a business strategy. I think they both are the same. In fact, my global process leader, Bob Lutz, in the business side, he gives my strategy for IT, basically. So that he presents once a year. He goes to Rick Wagner and the whole Automotive Strategy Board, and he fights with all the other global process leaders for new investment money in IT. So I don't go fight for IT investment money. The global process leader on the business side does. I think that's one of the big differences at General Motors and other places I've ever worked. We've talked about drive transformation, innovation, globalization challenges.